Hello, my Belfast Thousand Nation. How's everyone doing today? Hopefully, everyone's having a great day. If not, I hope it gets better from here. All right, we are back with another MrBallen video. This one is titled Paranormal Event with Proof. I like it when there's proof with it. Oh, my knee. All right, I'm excited. Let's go ahead and get into today's story. Go ahead and turn the lights down low. Put on something comfy, cuddle up with someone special. Let's get spooky. All right.
In 1967, a man was digging for gold in a forest in Canada when behind him he heard this sudden commotion. It sounded like geese getting really startled and flying off in different directions. And so he put down his pickaxe, he stood up, he turned around, and what he claimed happened next is referred to as the Falcon Lake incident, and it's considered to be one of the most credible paranormal stories of all time. But before we get into that story,
The Falcon Lake incident. Most credible paranormal event in history? I think Mr. Bones gotten into some spooky shit. All right. I was wondering when we was gonna get into the Spooktober Fandango shit. Yes.
if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered
Plus, I like the fact that there's proof.
in story format, then you've come to the right place because that's all we do, and we upload once a week. So, if that's of interest to you, please ask the like button if you can borrow their favorite DVD, but instead of watching it, use it as a frisbee with your dog and then return it. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads.
I really like to know where he comes up with the ideas for half the shit he gets. Beautiful mind. He's got a beautiful mind.
Okay, let's get into today's story.
Dudes.
Just before 11 p.m. at night on May 20th, 1967, a 50-year-old man named Stefan McCulloch staggered into the Misericordia Hospital in Winnipeg, Canada. Stefan was so physically weak that his oldest son, Mark, was there with him, physically holding him up, carrying him into the hospital. When the nurses at the front desk saw the pair walk in, they immediately got up and walked around their desk over to these two guys and said, "Hey, what's going on? What's wrong with him?" And so Stefan at this point is so uncomfortable he can barely talk, but he takes a deep breath and then he tells the nurses that earlier that day he had been burned on his chest and stomach, and now he had this blinding headache and he was so nauseous and he could barely walk. The nurses knew clearly this is an emergency, and so they quickly ushered the pair down the hall to an exam room, and then a couple of minutes later, doctors came into the room and they asked Stefan to show them his burns. Stefan, who was already lying on his back on the exam table, slowly reaches down and grabs the bottom of his shirt and he lifts it up, and the
I was beginning to wonder where he was grabbing. Oh, I was about to say, oh fuck. No, I know I'm not a family channel, but damn. Worst thing I do is cuss a lot. Let's keep it PG-13 at least.
doctors are stunned at what they see on his stomach. There was a very strange burn pattern that none of them had seen before. And so the doctors, they move in to get
Like, that's almost a perfect square, bro. Little dots. We could do that.
a better look at his injury. And as they're staring at it, they ask Stefan to explain how he got this burn. Now, what the doctors didn't realize is that Stefan was very conflicted. He knew if he told the truth about how he got this burn, then he would open himself and his family up to ridicule and skepticism. But as he's laying there and the doctors are waiting for his answer, he finally decides that the right thing to do here is just tell the truth. And so he takes a deep breath and then tells the doctors what happened to him. And by the time he was finished telling this story of what happened to his stomach, the doctor
Put him in the nut house. It's like, nah, bullshit. Don't give me that. They labeled him cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs and they put him away.
Doctors had stopped looking at his injury and instead were just standing in the middle of the room staring at Stefan with eyes wide and their mouths open. They were all literally speechless. Within 24 hours, Stefan's story had made news all over the world, and his story had attracted the attention of numerous US and Canadian secretive government agencies who were keen to interview Stefan one-on-one to really find out what he knew. In short, what Stefan claimed happened to him, dubbed the Falcon Lake incident, was a very big deal. However, the farther this story went and the more people that heard it, the more people started to question the validity of this story. It just seemed too unbelievable that maybe Stefan is just lying or this is a hoax. And so before I tell you Stefan's actual account of what happened at Falcon Lake, I'm going to give you a little context about who Stefan was prior to the incident. Because ultimately, Stefan's credibility in your eyes will determine if you really believe what happened to him. Stefan was born in the early 20th century in Poland, and when World War II broke out, he was captured by the Nazis and put into one of their concentration camps. It was called the Gross Rosen camp, and it was located in Poland. During his time at that camp, Stefan would bear witness to the Nazis perpetrating some of the worst atrocities ever committed against humanity. In total, approximately 125,000 people were held prisoner at the Gross Rosen camp, including Stefan. And of those 125,000, 40,000 of them would be killed, primarily on site at the camp, or on a Nazi-led death march. After the camp was finally liberated in early 1945, Stefan worked as a translator for the US Army, helping them continue to liberate other concentration camps across Europe. But by
Heck yeah. I'm liking this dude so far. Maybe he's not cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
1946, Stefan was ready to leave Europe and start a new life somewhere else and put World War II behind him. And so he and his wife, who also was held in a concentration camp during World War II, fled Poland with their 3 young kids and resettled in Winnipeg, Canada. And for the next 20 years, the McCullochs lived a very peaceful life. Stefan would find work as a mechanic at a cement factory, and his wife and his kids would make many friends and fall in love with the Winnipeg community. However, the McCullochs' life would take a sudden turn for the worst on May 20th, 1967. That was the day of the Falcon Lake incident.
Take a turn for the worse. Like, okay, so these people was it was in a concentration camp, and just now their lives are taking a turn for the worse. Oh, fuck. What did we get ourselves into, ladies and gentlemen? What did we get ourselves into? Oh, shit.
Stefan was a very passionate amateur prospector. A prospector is someone who searches the earth for mineral deposits, usually gold or silver. Stefan would spend much of his off time
Digging in the coal mine, going down, down, down. Oop, about to slip down. Yeah, okay. I always kind of wanted to. I don't want to say be a prospector. Like, I don't want to have to, like, destroy mounds of earth to find gold or silver or diamonds. But I always wanted to go pan for gold. I think that would be fun as shit. I don't know why. Like, I've always wanted to. I had my chance to. Uh, I went with my papa to visit some of his family in California, and all I found was that fake gold shit. Well, that's what I was told, anyways. I was a kid. God only knows. Papa had been like, "Ah, he's just gonna blow it all on Slim Jims and Code Red Mountain Dew." Fuck that. Uh, but I've always wanted to. I don't know what. I'm scared I'm one of those people I'd get like gold fever, and like I would just
precious. It's my precious.
You know what I mean?
Traveling all over Canada to different wilderness areas to basically hike around the forest and up over the mountains, stopping to hack into the earth with his pickaxe in hope of discovering treasures underneath the surface. Now, Stefan
He had the fever. He is going all through there with the pig. I was going,
Mere sweetums. I don't want my precious.
see, I do the same thing. I already fucking know. I already know.
almost never found any treasures on any of his prospecting journeys, but he wasn't really in prospecting for the riches. Stefan just loved being outdoors and being in nature. It was very calming and peaceful for him, and considering how traumatic his earlier life had been, being in the concentration camp during World War II, finding moments of peace in his life was very important to him. And so, in May of 1967, Stefan decided to go out on another one of his prospecting trips, this time to an area called Falcon Lake. Falcon Lake is a fairly large lake located about 100 miles to the east of Winnipeg. And surrounding this lake was a big forest that Stefan had heard contained silver.
Why do they call it Falcon Lake? Is there a lot of falcons there? Was he attacked by a falcon? I want to know. I've been to Finger Lake. I've been to Thumb Lake. They started running out of names for lakes by the time they got to these poor lakes. I'm telling you. Falcon Lake sounds like a pretty badass name, though. Where you going? Falcon Lake.
Deposits tucked away in the hillsides. And so on Friday, May 19th, Stefan was ready to go on this trip. And so he packed up all of his prospecting equipment. He said goodbye to his wife and his kids. And then he left the house and made his way to the bus stop where he hopped on a Greyhound bus. 2 hours later, he got off the bus at the stop closest to Falcon Lake, and from there, he made his way to this cheap motel that was right on the side of the highway. He got a room, he got a quick bite to eat in their cafe, and then returned to his room and went to bed. The next morning, May 20th, 1967, so the day of the Falcon Lake incident, Stefan woke up early, right around 5 a.m. And by 5:30 a.m., he had all of his equipment either in his backpack or on his belt, and he was making his way out of the motel's front doors. Right outside of this motel was the highway that ran left to right, and on the other side of that highway was this huge forest that Falcon Lake was deep inside of. And so after Stefan left the motel, he crossed over that highway and began walking into the woods. And for the next several hours, Stefan just kind of meandered his way through the woods. He wasn't on a trail. He was just using his compass to make sure he was generally walking in the direction of Falcon Lake. At around 9 a.m., so he's been hiking now for several hours, he looked up ahead and he saw there was a clearing on the side of this hill. And so Stefan walked into this clearing, and two things became immediately apparent. One, he was right near Falcon Lake. From his perspective on this clearing, he could look down just a couple of 100 feet, and there was the lake. And two, the reason this clearing existed and why
Real photo of Falcon. Oh, that's a pretty lake, and there's an island. Look at that. Is that another island? It's a pretty place. I like it. I like it. I want to go. I don't want to go. God. Let's wait until after the store to see if I want to go.
no trees were growing on it at all is because under his feet was just a huge rock face, like a quartz vein that was running across this hillside. And so this was like the perfect place for Stefan to begin prospecting. And so he set his things down, he got out his pickaxe, he got his welding gloves on, he put on his welding goggles as well. They protected his eyes from any rocks that were flying as he was hacking into the ground. And then he got to work. For the next couple of hours, Stefan very diligently hacked away at this big rock, but he didn't find any silver or anything else of note. And so around 11 a.m., Stefan was hungry and tired, and so he put his pickaxe down, he took his goggles off, he took his gloves off, and he sat down on this rock facing the lake to have some lunch. And as he sat there enjoying his food, all he could hear in the distance were the sound of a few geese down on the lake making some noise, but other than that, it was totally quiet. After he was done eating, he put his gear back on and got back to work. About an hour later, at around 12:15 p.m., Stefan was still hacking away at the rock when, despite all the noise he was making as he smashed the ground with his pickaxe, he could hear a really loud commotion coming from behind him. And it turned out when he stopped the pickaxe, the commotion sounded like geese honking and going wild. And so he dropped his pickaxe, he took his goggles, put them up on his forehead, and then he stood up and he turned around and he looked down towards the lake where he heard all these geese going crazy. And the first thing he noticed was there were some geese on the lake that appeared to be flying off in different directions like they had been startled. But what really immediately caught his attention was not the geese, but what had very likely startled the geese. And that was two bright, glowing red objects that were flying slowly across the lake towards him, kind of roughly over where the geese were.
Are we getting a commercial? Oh, fuck yeah. I got goosebumps from the story so far, and we get a commercial. Oh, happy day. I'm so excited.
Yesterday, my pet frog, Seagull Lung, and I went to the frog park. And as I watched old Lungy gallop over to his other frog friends to join their game of Hi-Li, I noticed something very
What is... Scream Mask? Fuck.
distressing. Poor old Seagull Lung was the only frog not in a Halloween costume. And
how could you do that to Seagull Lung?
so immediately my parental instincts kicked in and I sprinted over and ripped old Lungy off the Hi-Li field. And then before long, we were speeding home at over 100 miles per hour where we crashed into the front of the house. And then after climbing out of the twisted steel and wreckage, me and old Lungy hobbled over to our steam-powered laptop, and after getting that bad boy fired up, I was on the internet looking for the best Wolverine costume for frogs money could buy. But as I was browsing, I got hit, bah, 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 by a pua, bah, bah. Luckily, old Lungy slapped me right in the coccyx and said, "Papa, tout voir, NordVPN."
Papa, tu dois avoir.
Papa, tu dois avoir. Papa, tu dois avoir NordVPN. Which, of course, in French means, Dad, we need to sign up for NordVPN. A VPN, or virtual...
What the fuck is the French? Oh, shit.
Private network is a service that keeps you safe while you browse the internet. And NordVPN is the brand name in the space. Not only will NordVPN ensure all of your information stays safely behind their next generation wall of encryption, but also, most importantly, through their latest feature called Threat Protection, they will automatically block all those disgusting puas that keep preventing us from purchasing the best things in life, like Halloween costumes for frogs. So, be like me and old Lungy and sign up for NordVPN today. Right now, you can get a 2-year plan for a huge discount plus 4 additional months for free when you go to nordvpn.com/MrBallen. And it's risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. That's nordvpn.com/MrBallen or click the link in the description below. Okay, back to the story. And now these objects, they were cylindrical. They appeared to be about maybe 30 or 40 feet wide. They didn't have any sort of emission coming off of them. They weren't making any noise. They were just kind of slowly making their way over towards where Stefan was. Now, as...
Why was the frog French? I don't understand it. I love his commercials. I really think we should start hashtag MrBallen Super Bowl commercials. Like, we should put him in charge of all commercials worldwide. I'm just saying. Especially the Super Bowl. It's right. It's coming up, people. If we get this going, we might get it. We might get it. Just saying, like, how awesome would it be to be like right in the middle of the Super Bowl halftime, and then a commercial comes on, and it is your boy Mr. Ballin with his French frogie.
Stefan is watching this happen, he wasn't fearful. He assumed those have to be military aircraft. As it was, this part of Canada, Falcon Lake, is very remote. There's not many people around. And so, logically, it made sense that perhaps there's a military that's doing training exercises in this area. And so, feeling much more intrigued than fearful, Stefan just continued to watch as these red aircraft got closer and closer to his side of the lake. And then, when these two craft were about 200 feet away from where Stefan was standing, they came to a stop and they were just hovering in the air. And then one of the craft suddenly turned orange and began going up into the clouds, and then at some point just vanished. And then the other craft, instead of going up, just continued descending very slowly, now very clearly towards this open rock face that Stefan was standing on. Now, again, Stefan was totally convinced that these were military aircraft, conducting some sort of exercise, and so he's not fearful.
I've been scared as shit. Turning collars and like just floating and then going up and one coming at me very slowly where I'm at. I would have shit. I would have threw my pickaxe at it. See, that's why he should have took a chainsaw with him too. You don't fuck with the chainsaw.
He is just intrigued by what he's seeing. And in fact, by this point, he had convinced himself that this second aircraft that was now coming down to land on these rocks must have experienced some sort of issue, and they were landing in order to fix it. And Stefan even thought to himself, well, hey, I'm a mechanic. Maybe I can help the pilot or pilots with whatever's going on with their craft. Once the craft...
I appreciate his sentiment on that, but he's being way too nonchalant. No, I don't want. Look, maybe. Okay, this would be the first thought in my head. Oh shit, UFO. Second thought that ran through my head is okay, it's not a UFO, but it's coming at me. Did I just witness like a secret military training operation with secret military equipment that I'm not supposed to see? And now they coming down here and they're going to shoot me in my ass. I'm sorry, that's where my brain goes. I guarantee you that's why I'm not going to be the first one to die in any situation because I'm going to be like, fuck this, I'm out.
Craft finally did touch down on the rocks about 150 feet away from Stefan. It changed colors from red to stainless steel with an orange glow around the outside of the aircraft, and inside of this craft, a really bright purple light came on that Stefan was only aware of because there was a couple of small holes on the outside of this craft where this purple light was coming through. But these little rays of purple light coming out of this craft were so bright that it actually was hard for Stefan to look directly at the craft. And so his welding goggles were still on his forehead, so he pulled them down, put them over his eyes, and his welding goggles had a kind of tint to them, so it was like he was looking through sunglasses, and with those on, he was able to continue looking at the craft. And so through his goggles, Stefan is still just standing in the same spot where he first saw these craft, and he's watching this craft that's now landed 150 feet away from him, and he's fully expecting any minute for the pilot or pilots to come out of the craft and explain what's going on.
I don't think you want them pilots to come out of that damn craft. That's probably like one of the last damn things you want at this moment. Because I don't think that's of this earth. It's moon people. People. It's Martians. It's the Martians.
But at first, nothing happens. And so Stefan is just standing there waiting for something to happen when he realizes he has his sketchbook in his pocket. Stefan liked to bring his sketchbook along on his prospecting trips because he liked to sketch things. And so he figured while he waited for the pilot or pilots to emerge, he would sketch the craft. And so for the next...
Real photo of Stefan's sketch. And he's got dimensions and everything. I can't read that writing. I I, I barely can read my writing, but like that's very detailed. Oh, oh, look, it's the dot pattern that's on his belly. Did it take off and? Oh shit! Stefan got ran over by a UFO. Walking home from Falcon Lake one eve. You can say there's no such thing as aliens. But as for me and Stefan, we believe. I'm sorry. Oh shit. But look, seriously, like there's the dots and it's almost in that same pattern that's on his belly. Like he did a very, very detailed, like he did something, still body, shell. I would have left. I would have threw my pickaxe at it and ran like a little bitch. I ain't gonna lie.
Next couple of minutes, that's what he did. And then after he was done sketching it, he put his sketchbook away, and then really nothing happened for about another 30 minutes. He just stood there, and the craft remained motionless. But after about 30 minutes of the craft having landed, it opened. There was like a sliding door on the side of the craft facing Stefan, and it revealed the beautiful, bright purple interior of this craft. But from Stefan's perspective, because of how bright the lights were and how far away he was, he couldn't tell what was inside of the craft. But Stefan's thinking, okay, clearly now the pilot or pilots are coming outside. And so Stefan felt really relieved, and he was just standing there waiting to talk to whoever was inside. But again, nothing.
Yeah, it's a conversation you don't want, bud. I'm telling you. Everything you're wanting to happen, you definitely do not want to be happen. Yeah, UFO done landed in front of you. One done took off. It sat there. It gave you time to run away. It gave you like at least a good 30 some odd minutes to run the hell away, bud. Your ass sat there. It's like you're begging to be probed. Don't beg to be probed. They'll put things in the holes you never knew existed.
Nothing happened. And so now, feeling just plain curious, Stefan decided, you know what, I'm going to walk over there and I'm going to yell into this open door to the pilot or pilots inside and make sure they're okay. And so he starts slowly making his way across the rock face towards this craft and this open door. And when he gets about 60 feet away from the craft, he suddenly stops because now he can hear from inside of this craft the sound of two voices talking to each other. He can't really tell what they're saying, but very clearly there is communication happening inside of this craft. And so Stefan assumed that must be the pilots, and so he called out to them in English. And the second Stefan yelled out to this craft, the voices immediately came to a stop, and they did not respond to Stefan. And so Stefan is calling out to them.
No, I ain't going up to no weird ass looking UFO ship. This is like he said 1967. They knew what damn UFOs. I mean, you had Roswell and shit back then, right? Think it was around that time period somewhere, wasn't it? So you know what a damn UFO is, but that talking you heard between them, it was probably them telepathically trying to warn you, go away, we're gonna put things up your hiney hole. That's what we like to do. And then your ass is probably like, hey bud, and there's like, we just told him Now the aliens are sitting there gobsmacked. I love that new favorite word, I'm telling you. Like, he's wanting this. Like, we gave him time to run away. We're sitting here trying to freak him out with our telepathic thoughts. And he's just like, hey, bud. Shit.
them in English, hey, are you okay? What are you doing in there? And when English didn't work, Stefan called out in Russian. He called out in German, Italian, French, Ukrainian. And when all of those didn't work, he went back to English and just continued kind of calling out, trying to get them to please come out and talk to him. But he got no response and no one came out of the craft. And so at this point, Stefan thought, okay, I'm totally committed, so I need to keep going and make sure the pilot or pilots are okay. And so he continued walking closer and closer to this open door of the craft, and when he got about 10 feet away, he was suddenly struck by the incredible craftsmanship of this craft. He couldn't see any rivets anywhere on this amazing piece of machinery, meaning this craft appeared like it had somehow been carved out of one enormous piece of steel, which seemed totally impossible. Also, Stefan noticed there were no insignia on the outside of this craft. There was no flag or anything kind of denoting who was flying it. There was really nothing on the outside of the craft. But Stefan just kept on going until he was standing right outside.
Stefan, bro, there are so many red flags. Or lack of flags in this case. You're a mechanic. That should be scaring the shit out of you, the fact that it's like all one big ass piece of metal. Two, there's no flag on it representing who it belongs to, so okay, even if it's not alien, then that's probably some black ops shit that no one wants you to know, and you're gonna die. Like either way, this oh shit.
Of this open door. He's only a couple feet away from it, and now he's looking directly inside, and he doesn't see the pilot or pilots. And in fact, because of how bright this purple light is coming out, even with his goggles, it's really hard to see what's inside of this craft. But he can clearly see inside there is some sort of panel in the back of the craft with lots of flashing lights, almost like a computer, and there were other kind of columns of light moving around inside the craft at different angles. But after looking in this craft for only a few seconds, the door suddenly slid shut. And then Stefan, without really thinking about it, reached out and touched the craft. And the second he did that, two things happened. One, the hand that he touched the craft with, he was wearing a big welding glove, and the second he made contact with that craft, the leather glove began to melt. Not even catch on fire, it just instantly began to melt. And so he began frantically.
Oh shit. Real photo of Stefan's glove. Oh, bro, yeah, right there on the fingies. Imagine if he would. Why was it so hot? Was it like a defense thing? Or was it like, what computers do? Like a tower of a computer, you gotta have fans or they get hot. So many questions.
Ripping the glove off to get it off of him to avoid injury. And then the second thing that happened is the craft began rotating counterclockwise until this vent that was on the outside of the craft, one of the very few things that was on the outside of the craft that actually Stefan had noted in his sketch. He had drawn this grate that sat on the outside of the craft.
Right there. See? 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 I seen it. I saw it. I made a note of it.
Craft. This grate rotated around until it was aimed directly at Stefan. Now, to picture this grate, picture like a vent you would see inside of a building where air conditioning blows air out of, right? It's kind of like that same size, the size of a license plate on a car. And instead of there being vertical slats along the vent, like you would see with an air conditioning vent cover, on this vent, on this craft, it was like a checkerboard pattern with little buttonholes all over this vent. And so
Okay. Real photo of Stefan sketch. Appendix B, copy of sketch of UFO site made by McCulloch for RCMP, RCAF, notes and labels added. Wow. So there was like a 30-foot high cliff right past that. This here says view from above. Water, ledge on which him worked, and object landed. Cliff about 30 feet high. Hovering UFO number 2. UFO, rock width, scattered brush, not yet, something. Detail pattern burned on undershirt. So it's like it's exhaust or some shit? Like a carburetor on like a lawnmower instead of round square, right?
Stefan is looking at this vent, and then suddenly something shoots through the vent, like an explosion that hits him square in the chest and lights him on fire. His shirt is literally in flames, and so Stefan is frantically trying to rip off his shirt. He throws it on the ground, he's stomping the flame, and as he's doing that, he looks up and sees this craft has somehow immediately shot into the sky and is now disappearing into the clouds. Now, Stefan had no idea what just happened. All he knew is his chest and his stomach now hurt tremendously. But before he could deal with that, he developed this unbelievable headache. He suddenly felt so nauseous, and he felt delirious, like he was drunk. Trying not to panic, Stefan, who now is shirtless and badly burned, he ran over and grabbed some of his things, and then he began heading back into the woods to make his way back towards the motel. It would take him several hours of stumbling through the forest, stopping periodically to vomit, but he would eventually reach the highway, he would cross over, and he would make his way into the motel right around 4 p.m. And when he got there, he made his way into the cafe, and he asked the staff if they knew where the nearest doctor was. These staff members would later tell investigators that when Stefan came tumbling into the cafe without his shirt on, looking totally horrible, they assumed he was drunk. But after talking to him, he didn't smell at all like alcohol. Instead, he reeked of this horrible sulfur smell. The staff would tell Stefan that the nearest doctor was 45 miles away. And so at this point, Stefan decided his best bet was actually to just get on a bus and go back to Winnipeg, where his family could take him to the nearest hospital. And so somehow, Stefan managed to make his way to the bus stop. He hopped on a Greyhound bus, he went to Winnipeg, and then his oldest son, Mark, met him at the bus stop and practically carried him into the hospital. The very strange checkerboard burn pattern found on Stefan's abdomen, where he claims this craft turned its vent and fired on him, were determined not to be thermal burns, meaning he didn't get them from something hot touching his skin, like everyone initially suspected. Instead, they were determined to be chemical burns, but literally no one, doctors, scientists, government agencies, no one could figure out what chemical actually burned his skin. In fact, no one was ever able to actually identify what was causing all of these ailments that Stefan was complaining of, from the headache to the nausea to the weakness to these burns, and he was tested for
Got some kind of weird ass alien bird flu. What kind of fucked up shit is? Man, I ain't fucking with no alien shit. No.
basically everything from radiation poisoning to very common ailments and illnesses, and everything came back negative. Experts would go out to Falcon Lake, to the area that Stefan described seeing this craft, and sure enough, they would find an open rock face, and right around the area that Stefan described was this circular burn pattern, as if something had been perched right there that shot some sort of exhaust into the ground, and the area around this landing site was determined to be highly highly radioactive, although it is assumed that the reason that area is radioactive is because there is a vein of radium that runs underneath the rocks near the area. However, what no one could explain away were the 3 identical pieces of what looked like metal, which actually turned out to be a very rare type of silver, that were located near this burn circle. Now, even though the Falcon Lake area was known apparently for having silver deposits up in the hillsides, this silver, these 3 pieces of silver, were not from the hillsides of Falcon Lake. This silver was heavily manufactured. Someone, something, some machine had manipulated the metal to bend and be cut in a very particular way. And all
That's fucking creepy as shit.
3 of these pieces of very rare silver were highly radioactive. They would also find traces of this very rare type of silver that seemed to have seeped into some of the loose rocks that were inside of that burned out circle, almost like the silver had melted into the rock. But despite these pieces of evidence that do seem to suggest that Stefan really did see some
What kind of fucked up shit are we hearing? Is that why they was landing there, to get more silver to try to fix their ship? Or maybe that they... I'm scared. What kind of... What the... Uh... Eh, I don't know anymore.
craft land on these rocks, and despite the fact that the US government and the Canadian government both thoroughly investigated this case, and they were
Neither the D&D nor the RCMP investigation teams were able to provide evidence which could dispute Mr. McCulloch's story. Although the investigation has been complete, a satisfactory explanation or conclusion is still lacking. Cover up, y'all. I'm telling you, it's a cover up. Fucking government came in, poofed all that shit. How else to explain? I mean, he went into great description on the craft. Like, he sketched it amazingly. The holes that you figure was like maybe a form of exhaust or whatever lined up perfectly with his burns on his body and the burns on his shirt. His welding gloves have melted. Bro, I have wore welding gloves. I have never been able to melt. I have set them on fire more than once, but not just melted it. Like, I'd imagine it'd have to be really hot to just start to reach out to something and it start like glooping. I believe him. Like, I don't want to believe him. Don't get it wrong. I don't want to believe him, but I do believe him. Fuck.
not able to debunk it. They basically said, well, something happened, but we don't know what. Despite all of that, Stefan and his family's lives were forever upended after this incident. Stefan was ridiculed and accused of lying and of being crazy, and his kids were unfortunately bullied at school. Shortly before Stefan died in 1999 at the age of 83, he was asked if he regretted coming forward with this story. And he would say, yes, I wish I never told anyone. But he would also say, at the time, he really felt like he had a duty to tell the world about what happened. Stefan never changed his story, and he never came out and said, I think this craft came from another world, another planet, another universe. He just said, look, I think it was an experimental aircraft. That's it. He also never made a dime on this experience. If anything, he lost money because he paid to write a 40-page pamphlet that explained what happened to him, and then he left all these copies on his porch. So if news people showed up or if nosy neighbors showed up and had questions, he would just point to the stack of the books and say, "Take one and read it."
I like that. Grab your book on the way out. Have a good one.
So that's going to do it. If you got something out of today's episode and you
Yeah.
haven't done this already,
Yeah, there's UFOs, and the government will lie straight to your face about it. I hate the fact that he was so ridiculed after he did what he thought was right. I mean, this poor man and his wife lived through fucking Nazi concentration camps. I mean, that's a feat in itself. That's amazing all on its own. Living through one, not being in one, but living through one. Worked for the U.S. government, getting other concentration camp people out of other concentration camps and so on and so forth. All to be ridiculed for something that is 100% plausible. And of course, the government is not going to be like, yeah, it happened, because then that's just going to lead into more questions than what they would feel like dealing with. We already know. I just really hate the fact that him and his wife and his kids had to go through all that afterwards just because he did what he felt was right. Man, let someone in today's time come out and say, I was abducted by a UFO. Man, they're going to be on Oprah, they're going to be on Jerry, they're going to be on Maury, they're going to be on Dr. Phil, they're going to have a book, probably a TV show, then a movie. That's ridiculous. To be treated like a lying piece of trash that shouldn't even have opened your mouth just for doing what he thought was right. That's not fair. That's not fair to him or his family. Even if it was bullshit, who cares? Makes for an amazing story. I believe him though. I do. I can't say I've not ever seen a UFO. There's been things that you look at the night sky long enough, you're going to see something. You look at the sky anytime in some places, you're going to see some shit. I mean, that's just how it is. But you look long enough, you see things that you can't explain. And no matter how much you try to justify it in your head, like, oh, it was this, oh, it was that. When it comes down to it, it's just a unidentified flying object. That doesn't mean it's alien. Just means it's unidentified. It could be freaking anything. You could live close to one of these aircraft places that build experimental aircrafts and see something. You don't know what it is. No one's going to tell you what it is. That makes it a UFO. I'm not saying I've legitimately seen like alien UFOs. I mean, I don't know. I could have. We don't know what's out there. We don't know what's what. No. Some of you all out there could be lizard people. I don't know. If you are, please tell me in the comments down below. If one of you out there is a lizard person, please tell me. I've got to know. Yeah, I don't want to go gold mining or prospecting ever. Because think about it. What if you're out there and you're in a place that's rich in something that these aliens use or need or want or whatever? And maybe they come there and they take what they need and they go. I don't want to be out there when they're resupplying. Oh, honey, I'm going to the grocery store. Shit, there's some bald redheaded fuck down there. Well, we're going to have to do something about that. Throw something at you, bro. I'm running like a little bitch. I know you probably got something that will just like poof my brain like some Men in Black shit, but it's all good. I'm still gonna do something. All right. like I said, I believe it. Why would he lie? I mean, the man lived through some really fucked up shit. Why would he lie about something that's going to basically ruin his life and continue with it? Yeah, that's another thing. Like I believe him mainly because after it started to ruin his life, he didn't try to recant and say, "Oh, I was really fucked up," or "Oh, I was drunk," or "Oh, I made it all up," just to be deemed as a liar instead of a kook. Like he stuck with it. It didn't make a shit. I believe it. I do. All right. If y'all believe it, leave a comment down below. If you're a fan of, no, hold on, shit, we got aliens on the brain. Oh, like I said, if y'all believe or don't believe it, tell me what you think it was down below. Tell me if you think it was a lie, if it was all a bunch of bullshit. Tell me whatever. It don't matter. I don't care. I'll read it. I'll respond to it. That's just how it goes. If you enjoyed today's video as much as I did, go down there and abduct that like button. Take it into outer space and do weird things to its orifices. Or just go down there and hit the thumbs up and let me know that you liked it. Your choice. Either way. If you're a fan of the spooky, scary, strange, things that make you second guess your government and being honest to your government in any way, shape, or form, don't do it. Don't ever, no, especially when it comes to UFOs. Don't believe a damn thing the government says. It's all a bunch of bullshit. What they say, not the UFOs. I'm a firm believer. I'm sorry. I don't think that we are the only people or the only evolved life, or whatever you want to classify us as. I don't think we're the only things in this whole freaking universe, galaxy, whatever. I don't. I believe there's other things out there. They might not look like us. They might not talk like us. They might not breathe, drink, eat, shit, do whatever we do. I'm sure there's something else out there. Now, whether they want to come here or not, I couldn't tell you. I wouldn't want to come here. But you never know. Their world might be more shittier than ours. Maybe they want to come here. I don't know. I mean, if you think about it, maybe they want to come here just as bad as we want to go other places. I don't know. I don't know. Either way, think about subscribing. As always, be good to one another. I'll see you in the next one. What if he would have walked into the spaceship, though? Like, okay, him just reaching out to touch it started melting his gloves. What if he would have walked in there? Like, would he, like, start melting himself? Like, bye-bye. I'm gonna sit here and second guess my whole life and existence and contemplate if we actually come from Mars or not now. Thank you, MrBallen, for just mind fucking me today. I enjoyed it though.
Hi, precious.